host, the real Ed Oliver, and Tommy Shepard has made a trade. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Wizards podcast. It's your host, the real Ed Oliver. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. So Tommy Shepard has made a trade, trading Ish Smith and KCP for Monte Morris and Will the Thrill Barton. But before we do get started, this episode is brought to you by Arcade One Up. Locked On Wizards is partnering with Arcade One Up to give away 3 free NBA Jam Shack machines. That's right, 3. These are the guys known for making their incredible retro 3/4 scale at home arcade games like Pac-Man, Golden Tee, and many more. Enter to win on arcade1up.com/lockedon. That's arcade1up.com/lockedon for your chance to win one. So we are live talking about this one. So I'm going to give my takes on what I thought about the trade, and then I'll get to the chat. I know people are excited about the trade. The unknown isn't what's going on. I'm going to get to the comments in a second. So I'm just going to talk about the trade and break it down here. So the Wizards trade for Monte Morris, is he the answer to the Wizards point guard ? To fill that void and that need? They only had Ish Smith under contract. His contract wasn't even fully guaranteed. I do think the Nuggets are going to keep him. Ish Smith has been on 13. This will be his 13th team, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you, Ish Smith, for his services. Thank you, KCP, for his services. Monte Morris is a solid point guard. I do want to go over his stats and his numbers here, but the question, of course, is does this move the needle? But I think the Wizards get 2 solid players. Of course, the history with Wes Unseld Jr. being the assistant coach, coaching up Monte Morris, coaching Will Barton. Monte Morris was a starting point guard with Jamal Murray being out, Michael Porter Jr. being out. Monte Morris had a good season last year, had career highs in points, 12.6 points per game, 4.4 assists per game, was 5th in assists to turnover ratio. And this is what the Wizards were looking for. They're looking for a pass-first point guard, a guy that does not need the basketball in his hands to be successful. They're trying to find a guy that fits next to Bradley Beal. Malcolm Brogdon, the asking price was too high. DeJounte Murray, the asking price was too high. John Wall signs with the Los Angeles Clippers. Other point guards just not available. Colin Sexton is a name that's been thrown around. Does he really fit next to Bradley Beal? So Monte Morris is a solid fit next to Bradley Beal. Is he really a starting point guard? He's been a backup point guard for the majority of his career. He had to start with Jamal Murray being out, and I thought he did well with that role. 86% from the free throw line, shot 39% from the three-point line, shooting 4 threes per game. So he's a guy that is able to space the floor, doesn't need the ball in his hands, and the Wizards need shooting. They need guys that can put the ball in the basket from the three-point line, like it's average 12 points a game. One of the highest turnover to assist ratios, was ranked 20th he was ranked 9th in defensive real plus minus. Will Barton as well was ranked at 20th in defensive real plus minus as well, according to ESPN statistics. So it's a solid trade. I think the Wizards, Tommy Shepard is really good at making trades. Drafting is something that he needs to improve on. Monte Morris is a solid pickup. Is he an all-star or even a legitimate starter? Those are the question marks there for sure. But giving up KCP, who was one of your better defenders, if not your best defender, was between him and Denny Avdija last year, and your best three-point shooter, KCP shooting 39% from the three-point line, to bring in a point guard of Monte Morris, you get 2 valuable players. Will Barton is a rotational guy. I do want to talk about it later of, what the rotation look like. Is Tommy Shepard done yet making moves? They still need another point guard on this roster. They did bring in Chris Dunn. Cassius Winston signed a deal with the Sixers, a 2-way deal. They picked up Anthony Gills. They tendered Anthony Gills. Those are the roster moves that have been made. I haven't made a podcast in a couple of days here. I just wanted to get back, of course. But it's a solid move. Like I said earlier, Wes is familiar with Monte. He's familiar with Will Barton. The fit next to Bradley Beal, I think it can work. And does it move the needle? Does it make them a playoff team? That's another question mark there. I think it's kind of in that play-in range, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10. I can see that they still have to make more roster moves. Do they have a small forward? Will Barton start? Will Denny start? Will Rui start at the small forward or Kuz? They still have a log jam at that forward spot. So it's still a lot of question marks there. But I do I like the move. I think Monte Morris is a solid point guard. He's a steady Eddie point guard. He can knock down shots from the mid range. Let me go over the contracts here as well to get you guys up to speed on that as well. So Monte Morris is on a favorable deal. He's on a favorable deal, a favorable contract. Here. He's making about $9 million per year. The Wizards do have him under contract until 2024. So he'll be under contract this year, $9 million. And then in 2024, he'll be under contract for $9 million. So you give up KCP and Ish for Monte Morris and Will Barton. I think it's a solid deal. And I think the Wizards did get the better of the trade because you get a point guard that can defend. Monte Morris is a solid defender, which is what they were looking for. Is he a taller guard? He's not. He's about 6'3" or 6'2". Looking it up right now, he's 6. Monte Morris is about 6'2", so he's 6'2", 283 pounds. So he doesn't fit the taller guard that they were looking for. But he's a point guard that's looking to pass. He hit a game winner against the Warriors that was super clutch. He stepped up big time for the Nuggets this time in big moments. He hits a lot of clutch baskets next to Jokic, playing well for them and stepping up. He was a mid-range assassin as well. He took 38% of his shots from the mid-range, was at the 68th percentile, and shot 48% from the mid-range, which is in the 90th percentile per basketball index. So he's a knockdown shooter from the mid-range, and he shot the ball well from the three-point line as well. So those are some positives from Monte Morris. Will Barton is a bucket getter. He is from Baltimore. Kyle Kuzma also tweeted out that Monte Morris and Kyle Kuzma played together when they were younger. Will Barton's from the area, from Baltimore, had a couple big games. He's a guy that's not afraid to take big shots either. You look at his contract as well. Will Barton, this year, he only has 1 year left on his deal coming up, which is $14 million. KCP was making $14 million, and Ish Smith, if the Nuggets guarantee his contract, which most likely they will, Ish Smith will be making about $4 million coming up. So the reason why the Nuggets made this trade is because, they got Bones Highland as a backup point guard. They still have Campazzo. Jamal Murray's coming back. So they looked at Monte Morris and Will Barton like these guys are expendable. So they got guys coming back, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray coming back. So that's why they look to make this deal. So did Tommy Shepard fleece the Nuggets? I wouldn't say he fleeced the Nuggets, but I think it's a good deal bringing in a solid point guard who's a steady Eddie guy, can bring up the ball, doesn't turn the ball over, is looking to pass, doesn't need the ball in his hands. And you bring a guy on Will Barton who can score and can fill it up. Will Barton's another guy. The Wizards want to get better defensively and shooting the three ball. Pulling up Will Barton's numbers as well from the three. I'll do this real quick. And then I do want to talk about some of the rotations, and then also some rumors that the Wizards are connected to Victor Oladipo, and that Kyle Kuzma is on that has been made available as well. This is per Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report. Will Barton averaged 14 points a game, 3.9 assists per game, 5 rebounds per game, and looking at his shooting numbers, shot 36% from three on 6 3-point attempts per game, which is at a high clip. The Wizards need shooting desperately. Will Barton shot 38% from the 3-point line in 2021 as well. And his field goal percentage was 43% from the field. Solid numbers. Got to the free throw line about 2 times a game, shot 80% from the free throw line. So we got guys that can come in and shoot and can defend. And Will Barton was one of the top chasers in the NBA, one of the best off-ball chasers. The off-ball chaser is a guy that can chase guys off the ball, shooters, your Duncan Robinsons of the world. He's the guy that's chasing those guys and following them around. This is per Basketball Index as well. Will Barton was number 5 in the top chasers in our off-ball chaser defensive metric. He was number 5, ranked 5th in the NBA. So he brings 3-and-D ability. Is he going to start at that 3-man spot? It's a question mark. It's going to be a battle. We have a log jam at the 4 and the 3 spot. Rui, Denny, Corey Kispert. Johnny Davis is more of a 2. We still need a backup point guard. And I do think Monte Morris is going to start. I really do think he's going to start. I do want to talk somewhat about the rotation for the Washington Wizards coming up. But before we do get to that, this episode is brought to you by Arcade 1-Up. Boom, shakalaka. We have big news. The one, the only NBA Jam is back. Arcade 1-Up, the leader in at-home retro arcade games, is not only bringing the best game ever back, but they've made it bigger than ever with a, wait for it, Shaq Edition machine. People are obsessed with NBA Jam, and I'm thrilled to tell our listeners that you can only once again play hoops with NBA legends in this arcade classic. Jump clear across the court and set the ball on fire. In one of the first sports games ever to feature real and digitized NBA licensed teams, no fouls, no free throws, and no quarters required. Compete with friends and family through all new Wi-Fi leaderboards, making you more connected than ever. Pre-order now from arcade1up.com. That's arcade1up.com for an estimated early September ship date. Arcade 1Up is the place for fun. They've got even more classics like Golden Tee, Mortal Kombat, and many others starting at just $399. Check this out. They're giving away an NBA Jam Shaq edition to a Locked On listener. Enter for a chance to win a game console for your man cave at arcade1up.com/locked on. That's arcade1up.com/locked on. You've got till July 8th to enter to win NBA Jam Shaq Edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with? All right, so I do want to get to the outlook and the rotation for this roster now. So I do think the starting five, of course, is going to be Monte Morris. I think he's going to be the starting point guard. I think they're bringing him to start. I think the familiarity with Wes Unseld Jr. I think he fits with what they're looking for. I just don't see them being able to acquire somebody like a DeJounte Murray. I don't see them being able to acquire SGA or a Malcolm Brogdon. I don't think they want to. I think they didn't want to give up that 10th pick in the lottery that they used on Johnny Davis. I just don't think they wanted to give up draft capital. I think the Pacers are looking for draft capital, future picks, and more assets for Malcolm Brogdon. And you had to match salaries of the $22 million for Malcolm Brogdon. Of course, the Wizards are over the salary cap. They're below the luxury tax. So I just didn't see that happening. I thought Malcolm Brogdon possibly, but bringing in Monte Morris, it just tells me that, hey, I do see him as the starting point guard. I think what the Wizards are going to do, I think they're going to do a point guard by committee approach. There's no perfect point guard. I don't know if John Wall was actually a realistic option, but seeing him move on to the Clippers, you look at the other options like Ricky Rubio, Dennis Schroeder, Tyus Jones. They were connected to Tyus Jones as well. I think that's off the table now. They could use the mid-level exception to bring in the Tyus Jones, but it's kind of like you have two similar point guards, two shorter guards. I think they want to bring in a bigger guy. The Wizards are connected to Victor Oladipo per Jake Fisher, and I think that's a guy I think they really should heavily go after. He's not a point guard, but he could be a combo guard, and he can bring the ball up for sure. For the Miami Heat this past year, he was playing the point guard in the playoffs at times, and he was guarding the point guard position. He was the guy that was their point of attack defender. Monte Morris can be a solid point of attack defender as well, but I do think the Wizards are going to take a point guard by committee approach. Monte Morris is a good point guard, but is he a legitimate starting point guard? He's not. So I do think they need to bring in more guys. They did sign Chris Dunn, or he's on that summer league roster, and he is a good defender, but he's more of a third string guy. He's kind of proven that throughout his career. So I do like Chris Dunn, but as a backup, you just need more. So my potential starting five, I had Monte Morris, Bradley Beal at the 2, Will Barton at the 3, Kyle Kuzma at the 4. Kyle Kuzma, like I said, is made available from rival teams per Jake Fisher. He has said that. Porzingis at the 5. So Kuz would be my 4. Porzingis would be my 5. Will Barton at the 3 right now. If Denny can show improvement over the offseason, finishing with his left hand and knocking down threes, then sure, I could see him starting. Rui at the 3 has to improve defensively, but right now I just see the familiarity with Wes Unseld Jr. and Will Barton. I could see Will coming up starting, or I could see Will coming off the bench as a microwave scorer. I could certainly see that. Will Barton is known as a scorer. He's a 3-level scorer. He's a guy that can take you off the dribble, off the bounce, and can just get buckets. And he's athletic. He can play above the rim as well. And then off the bench is Johnny Davis, who we just drafted from Wisconsin, who's a legitimate defender and a great rebounder, 8.5 rebounds per game. Great mid-range scorer. Can he knock down the 3 is the question mark for Johnny Davis. But I have Johnny Davis coming off the bench for Bradley Beal. Denny would be your 3 coming off the bench behind Will Barton. Kispert has to get in there somewhere. Rui is your 4-man behind Kyle Kuzma. Daniel Gafford is your 5-man right behind Kristaps Porzingis. And then it's a question mark who's your backup behind Monte Morris. I had Victor Oladipo. If they sign him, I would have him fighting with Monte Morris for that point guard spot. But I just don't know who they would sign, or do they make a trade to find somebody else or another wing, because they still have a question mark at that 3, but they still don't really have a natural small 4. KCP played the small 4 position last year, but he's 6'5". He's more of a shooting guard. So they still technically really have a question mark at who's the natural 3-man. I have Will Barton starting right now. So, but I'll make 2 last points about Victor. Like I said, I would love to, if they can get him on the mid-level exception, I would love to bring him in. He would bring a lot of defense to this roster and play at the point of attack and create steals. You saw what he did against the Sixers, against James Harden, just playing the pass lanes and just being a pest. I think he would be a great addition as a backup. I'll call him a combo guard. Kyle Kuzma on the trade block. I would like to see the Wizards keep Kyle Kuzma, but if he does get on the if they the only way I would trade Kyle Kuzma is if they're bringing a better plan, packaging for an all-star. I've seen the Wizards are reportedly interested in John Collins as well. If they trade Kyle Kuzma for John Collins or something like that, that's a lateral move. I know the salaries wouldn't match there because Kyle Kuzma, I understand he has the player option next year, so it's sometimes it's better to be proactive and make a move and trade him before the contract, before he opts out of the deal, and he's going to need more money. But yeah, that's the only way I'm trading Kyle Kuzma is if you're going to bring in a significant upgrade. Other than that, I would rather just keep him for now. So that's what I have for my starting five. Anthony Gill is going to be on the roster as well. So that's my rotation right there. Monte, Morris, Bradley Beal at the 2, Will Barton at the 3, Kyle Kuzma at the 4, Porzingis at the 5. Does this move the needle? It doesn't really move the needle, in my opinion. I think it does make them better, but honestly, the Wizards, what I've been thinking as well, the Wizards can improve roster-wise, but the East can improve as well. Like, you still have the Celtics. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown aren't going anywhere for a long time. Giannis is not going anywhere for a long time. Middleton and Drew Holiday, they're not going anywhere for a long time. The Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, they're not going anywhere for a long time. They still have Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Kyle Lowry, Marcus Morris. They still, Eric Spoelstra is still there. He's going to be there for a while, and Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. They just know how to coach guys up and get the better at a second round and undrafted guys. So the Miami Heat culture just alone is going to be they're just going to have a better roster than the Wizards. The Sixers with Joel Embiid, the Nets, Kyrie Irving opting back in, Kevin Durant is going to be there next year. So that's 4 or 5 teams. I'm probably missing some teams as well. They're just going to have better rosters than the Washington Wizards, the Toronto Raptors, Scotty Barnes. Cavaliers are young and getting better with Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. So does it really move the needle? It doesn't. Bradley Beal, of course, coming back. Porzingis, they all have to stay healthy, obviously, but it does not move the needle for me. I could see maybe 40, 41 wins. And I do think this will be better for Wes Unseld Jr., just having him be comfortable with guys that he knows. I know last year he had a problem policing the locker room and commanding the locker room and leading them. There was just a lot of chemistry issues there. And I think you won't really get that with Monte Morris and Will Barton. If Will Barton is still on the roster, there's a possibility where they could still move Will Barton to bring somebody else in, somebody who's better, maybe another point guard, maybe another wing, an all-star wing, if somebody's made available. There's just not a lot of people out there that are available. But I do want to get to the chat here and get you guys' take on it. Tomorrow I'll be having Troy Halliburton coming in to talk about the move and just talk about Wizards basketball in general. But before we do get to you guys and I get to talk to you guys about the move, 90 people are in the chat. Thank you guys for coming in on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. This episode is brought to you by Sakara. Feeling your best starts with what you eat. Sakara helps you live a healthy, balanced lifestyle and truly enjoy it with delicious, plant-rich, transformational nutrition that builds a foundation for living in your best body. Now is the time to seek wellness, joy, and abundance in all areas of your life, starting with what you eat. With Sakara, you get nutrient-dense meals, snacks, and supplements that nourish your body without ever sacrificing taste or quality. Looking and feeling your best shouldn't mean deprivation. Instead, choose joy and abundance. Sakara's organic, plant-rich, transformational nutrition programs are designed to help you cultivate body intelligence so you can nourish your body and experience the results you want. Sakara is a wellness company anchored in food as medicine on a mission to nourish your body through the power of plants. And right now, Sakara is offering our listeners 20% off their first order when they go to sakara.com/lockedon20 or enter code LOCKEDON20 at checkout. That's Sakara, SAKARA.com/lockedon20 to get 20% off your first order. Sakara.com/lockedon20. All right, let's get to the chat here. Like I said, there's 90 people in here, so I know there's a lot of comments here. The unknown ism says, "What's up, Ed?" Sam Davis says, "Yes, sir." Sam Davis says, "What do you think of the Murray trade now? Will Barton stay?" I just don't see us getting DeJounte Murray. There's a report also that said they want 3 first-round picks and a role player. I know the Hawks have been really engaged with the Spurs. They offered Danilo Gallinari and 3 first-round picks. The Wizards have a lot of protections on their pick. If I'm the Wizards, I would definitely give up 3 first-round picks in a player if it had to be Denny Kuz or Rui, just because the Wizards, they need talent. They need all-star talent. And to compete with the East, like I just named, Giannis, Jimmy, KD, Kyrie, James Harden, Joel Embiid. The Nets have Ben Simmons too. If he ever comes back, you got Jaylen Brown and the Celtics and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart, Horford. Those teams they're just better than the roster-wise. They're just better than the Washington Wizards. So if you're adding talent, I'm all for it. And DeJounte Murray is 25 years old on a $16 million a year contract. I mean, that's just a favorable contract. I don't see why you wouldn't trade the picks and a player for DeJounte Murray. I know it hurt your depth, but right now, where is your depth really getting you? And right now, the Wizards have a log jam. They have a log jam at that 4-3 spot. Rui, Denny, now Will Barton, Kuzma, Kispert. So they have a log jam there, and the Wizards were better with less last year when they consolidated and guys were out. And some unfortunately in health and safety protocols, and when they made the trade, the Wizards looked a lot better moving the ball. Brad looked more comfortable when Dinwiddie wasn't playing and other guys were out. So I just think the Wizards need to consolidate. If they're able to bring in top tier all-star talent, I'm all for it for sure. Chris says great move. Like I said earlier, Tommy Shepard is really good at making trades, drafting. Definitely has some improvement areas in drafting. I like the Johnny Davis pick a lot. I love the defense that Johnny Davis is going to bring and the energy he's going to bring. He's a mid-range assassin. Dropped 37 points and 14 boards against Purdue. So I'm excited to see Johnny Davis play. But I do think that Tommy Shepard needs to improve on his drafting for sure. Jay Terry says, wow, Kuz said him and Monte were in second grade together. Always wanted to play on some NBA team. Yeah, I said that earlier too. I did see that tweet where Kyle Kuzma tweeted out that he him and Monte Morris grew up together playing basketball. So that is pretty good. Pretty cool. And Will Barton is from Baltimore. Wes Unseld Jr. is from Baltimore as well. He went to Loyola Blakefield in Baltimore. So there's some small local connections there too. Bubba said heard that too. That's pretty cool. Aris Pluggett says, are you sure this trade makes Wiz contenders? Granting that Bradley Beal resign. So Bradley Beal is likely to resign. He's going to opt out of his deal. Obviously, we've been talking about this for years now that he's going to sign the 5-year, $248 million deal, the 35% of the salary cap. We'll see if Tommy negotiates anything else for anything less than that. We'll see, but most likely it's going to be that deal that he's going to get that money for sure. Does the trade make us contenders? I already said I don't think it makes us contenders. Contenders for sure. The play-in and the playoffs. Yeah, I think we can make the playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. I think we can make the playoffs as an 8th seed. It may look like a gentleman's sweep like it did when we made it with Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal in the first round against the Sixers. But Monte Morris is a good player. He's a good player. He plays hard. He can shoot the three. He can shoot the mid-range. He's not scared of clutch moments. Like I said, he hit that game winner against the Warriors. I want to say back in February, look that up on YouTube. He was clutch. Didn't play well in the playoffs this year in the first round, but he tried. I think he just maxed out and capped out in the playoffs. And he's 6'3", which is not the tallest guard in the world. But I just think the Wizards, they weren't going to find the perfect point guard. When Tommy Shepard and Wes Unseld Jr. talked about their point guard, kind of like a Build-A-Bear, the Build-A-Point guard that they wanted, they just weren't going to get that. They weren't going to get the perfect guy. Malcolm Brogdon was available, but they didn't want to give up the 10th pick. They didn't want to give up too much for a guy that's injury prone. And a positive too, I want to look at the games that Monte Morris has played or that he's missed. Monte Morris, this is Will Barton here. He played 71 games this past year, 56 games the year before. But I do want to look at the injury history of Monte Morris. The thing is, Malcolm Brogdon, the injury history was a concern with him. Monte Morris played 75 games in 2022. Monte Morris played 47 games in 2021. He played 73 games in 2020. He played in 82 games in 2019. So he's been pretty darn durable. His rookie season, he played in the G League. So he only played in 3 games for the Nuggets, but he's been pretty reliable. He went to Iowa State as well. He's 27 years old. Will Barton, I'll look him up as well, just looking at the age so we can get context for Will Barton. But they're both on solid contracts. Will Barton is 31 years old. So does it make the Wizards contender for the playoffs and the play-in? I would definitely say that for sure. Fred Fezzo says, I need to see these guys play a bit. Don't really care about the contracts. I just got to talk about the contracts. We got to know what's going on with his team. The Wizards are over the cap. Obviously, they had the mid-level exception and the biannual exception to use. They can't really sign anybody outright unless it's a minimum deal or using the mid-level exception. So you just have to know. We have to know the contracts and the context of the money that the Wizards have to use. So Uptown Dre says, yo, Edo, solid trade. Morris and Will Barton plus minus D rating was outstanding. Yeah, they do have a good defensive plus minus rating, which is solid for the Wizards. Tommy Shepard and Wes Unseld Jr., they always look at the plus minus rating for players. They do look at analytics, and they did great out. Like I said, Will Barton, that chaser role, to explain what the chaser role is, it's kind of like when you're following a shoot around off ball, you're just following the guy, tracking a guy around like a Duncan Robinson who likes to run around shooters all the time. Will Barton's really good at that. He's being getting the passing lanes. He's 6'5". He has long arms too. He can get the passing lane too, and he can get down in a defensive stance. So I think Will Barton will help out and be a solid defender as well for the Washington Wizards. I know a lot of Nuggets fans on social media were saying Will Barton is not a good defender, and that his shot selection is a little off. So that's the only thing. Will Barton, his shot selection can get a little erratic, and that's what happens when you're a scorer. Sometimes you get hot and you can take some heat check shots, and I think those are some of the cons with Will Barton. But the Wizards, they need guys who can create a shot for themselves. And I think Will Barton is a guy that can do that. Somebody who can dribble with both hands, is ambidextrous, 3-level scorer that can get to the basket and get some shots up for the Wizards. Morris, number 1 point guard, and Barton, number 2 in small forward rating. Yes, sir. We are looking at Javon Carter and DeLon Wright. I have not seen Javon Carter so far, but as a backup guard that can defend, and that's the defensive mindset. If they do get Javon Carter, he is a legitimate defender. He is a guy that likes to get up in you defensively and defend full court. Javon Carter certainly does do that. DeLon Wright is a solid defender as well. He is a taller guard, so he would be taller than, the guards like last year, Ish and Paulo Neto. Ben says, I actually like the trade. We're not a contender, but definitely an upgrade at point guard. Hopefully we get another point guard like Tyus Jones. Yeah, Tyus Jones could be on the table. You could get him with the mid-level exception. That was reported by Mock Scotto of Hoops Hype. And previous news was that KCP was on the table for Will Barton. They were looking at the trade trade deadline. That was reported as well. So I like the trade too. I like the trade. I think they get a point guard. I do think Monte is going to be the starter. I don't see them bringing in anybody else who would be better that is really available. Honestly, we're not a championship contender. We're just not. But we can definitely get into the play-in and get into the playoffs. Now, if the playoffs and play-in is your goal, then it's a questionable goal. You always want to compete for a championship. So is it? Ted Leonsis said he will never ever tank. So or if your goal is just to make the play-in and the playoffs, I do question that. You look at other teams that are rebuilding and getting better. You look at the Pistons, you look at the Rockets. They're getting young talent. It's going to take years to get better, but so they do want to keep Bradley. They do want to keep Porzingis, and Kuzma. We'll see if he stays. If the cards shake right, can the Wizards make the playoffs and maybe get to the second round? I think that's your optimistic, wishful thinking for the Washington Wizards right now. But Tommy Shepard, I don't think he's done yet. And Bradley Beal, he does play better with a pass-first point guard. Last year, him and Dinwiddie it was not a good fit. It was kind of like your turn, my turn kind of thing where they're both looking to score. Spencer Dinwiddie, he's better at it as being a sixth man scorer. And Monte Morris is more of a natural point guard who's looking to set up the offense, who's not going to turn the ball over, had a high assist to turnover ratio, can shoot the three, can shoot the mid-range as well. Lander22 says Monte, Bill, Kuzma, Porzingis, Gafford, Denny Abdia, Rui Hachimura, Kispert, Davis squad in all caps. I think it's a solid. You got some young talent there. Dude, they gotta make some leaps. Denny has to make a leap. I want to see him improve with left hand dribbling and finishing layups around the rim. Rui has to be better defensively. Rui improved from the 3-point line, shooting 44% from the 3-point line, but defensively, I think he regressed. He always has the mid-range game. He's always had that, and he can really finish around the rim. I do want to see where Kispert fits in and where Johnny Davis fits in. As a rookie, they plan on Johnny Davis to get a lot of minutes this year. They talked about Johnny Davis being point guard. So would he be a backup point guard when he was more naturally a 2 or a 3 in college? Uptown Dre says also looking at Colin Sexton. I don't see them bringing in Colin Sexton. I know they were connected to Colin Sexton by a lot of news and media outlets for sure though. Sam Davis says Kuz isn't not leaving. We just don't know. We don't know. I'd rather them keep Kyle Kuzma for sure, but we just don't know for sure. The unknown-ism, good question. I just talked about this. How and where does Johnny Davis fit in? Johnny Davis, he would be the backup point guard to Bradley Beal. I talked about this. So this is my rotation. I have Monte Morris at the 1, Bradley Beal at the 2, Will Barton at the 3. This is my starting 5. Kyle Kuzma at the 4, Porzingis at the 5. You still have a question mark for the backup point guard to Monte Morris. Johnny Davis would be Bradley Beal's backup shooting guard. Denny would be the backup 3 to Will Barton. Rui Hachimura would be the backup 4. And I didn't even name Corey Kispert yet. Daniel Gafford would be the backup 5 to Porzingis. So you still have a log jam of guys there. Anthony Gill is still on the roster, as most likely will be on the roster. So Johnny Davis will be your backup shooting guard. I think he'll be your scorer with the second unit. They'll give him the ball most likely where he's comfortable, maybe in the mid-post or in the mid-range game. That's where he was really comfortable. So I think to make him comfortable out there, and he's definitely going to play with Bill too, so he has to be better off ball shooting the 3. But I see him coming off the bench being your backup two guard. I do want to see him in the summer league too. I do want to see. I know the summer league is, of course, you don't want to judge the summer league. You know, you're seeing guys like Glenn Rice Jr. win the summer league MVP. Troy Brown had a heck of a summer league as well, and it's very different, of course, than the regular NBA. But I do want to see how they play Johnny Davis in the summer league. Do they play him at point guard a little bit here and there? I do want to see that. Uptown Dre says, "Yo, we might be looking to trade Kuzma if the price is right. He has 1 year left on his deal." Just saying. I talked about that. I would not trade Kuzma unless it's for a move to better the roster. If it's a lateral move, I'm not doing that. I'd rather keep Kuzma. If they're really trying to compete for the playoffs, then I think Kuzma's a guy that you want to keep. Yes, Kyle Kuzma does have a player option after this season. He's on a favorable deal, making about $13 million per year. He's going to opt out. I talked about his contract. Harrison Barnes is making about $20 million. Danilo Gallinari is making about 18-20 mil. Bogdanovich, that we used to have from the Wizards on the Jazz, he's making about 18 mil. The one from the Hawks is around that range too. There's just guys that I feel like Kyle Kuzma is just as good or better than. So it would serve him better to opt out after this season, after the 2023 season, and I could see him making around 20 million. If he plays the way he did, 17 points a game, 8 boards a game, 24 double-doubles on the season, led the team in double-doubles, almost led the team in rebounding as well if it wasn't for Porzingis, was clutch, was number 2, hit 17 clutch three-pointers this season, was number 2 in clutch three-pointers made this past year. So Kyle Kuzma earned his money for sure. He definitely deserves more than $13 million. Sam Davis, yes, Kyle Kuzma has 1 year left on his deal basically after this season. Take That says, do they still see Johnny Davis as a shooter? I think he can improve because if you look at the Wisconsin games, he had the ball in his hands. He had a high usage. He had 31.6 usage rate, and Tommy Shepard said that Johnny Davis had a lot of grenade shots where he had to take the shot at the last second of the shot clock where, you know, they kind of gave him the ball and he just had to create. He had to make a lot of tough shots. So he will be playing off ball. You look at the shooting stroke, it's good. I heard in his workout he didn't shoot the ball well in his pre-draft workout. But I do see some shooting prowess there. His freshman year, he shot the ball at a high clip. He didn't shoot many threes, but I thought he shot the ball pretty well as a freshman from the three-point line. Sam Davis says he will play both. I think Sam is talking about Johnny Davis playing point guard and shooting guard. Yes, a combo guard. Brandon Scott, what's good, Big E? What's going on? I got Brandon Scott. What's up, man? Thank you for tuning in. Take That says Johnny Davis is a backup point guard. If Davis is a backup point guard, I guess we're done. I wouldn't say that. He's got to learn the possession. But if you watch his tape and in some of his film, he made a lot of open shots. He was able to generate open shots for his guys. They just weren't able to knock down a lot of shots at Wisconsin. The offense basically ran through Johnny Davis. LK says Monte, Brad, Porzingis, Gafford, who plays small forward. Johnny Davis, Corey Kispert, Denny, and Rui. Don't forget Will Barton. Will the Thrill can definitely play the 3 as well. It's not ideal, but I think day one he starts as the small forward. Now, is he going to be traded? Will he be used as a trade asset? Who knows? Will Barton only has 1 year left in his contract as well. So that's definitely a tradable contract right there, making $14.7 million per year. Sam Davis says, yeah, Kuz has 2 left and might get an extension here. I do want to pull up Kyle Kuzma's contract here really quickly, and then I'm going to sign out here pretty soon. We'll talk about this more in depth tomorrow. Like I said, Troy Halliburton will be coming on as a special guest tomorrow. So I do want you guys to tune into that. It should be a good episode. He always has some good insight for the Washington Wizards. Yes, Kyle Kuzma, 2023, he's going to be making $13 million. The 2024 season, he has a player option of $13 million. So if I'm Kyle Kuzma, the way he played this past season, if he keeps it up, I'm looking at that $13 million, and I'm kind of laughing at it, to be honest, for Kyle Kuzma. Uptown Dre says starters Monte, Bill, Barton, Kuz, Porzingis, bench, Johnny Davis, Corey Kispert, Denny Abdia, Hachimura, and Gafford, two-way center, Vernon Carey Jr., and Isaiah Todd. Let's see here. iHero says I missed that comment there. I gotta find it. There's a lot of comments coming in here, so I'm trying to respond to everybody if I can. iHero says, in my mind, we're going to trade Kristaps Porzingis for DeAndre Ayton and give him the contract the Suns won't give him. I don't see that happening. I really think Tommy Shepard likes Kristaps a lot. The way he talked about him, I don't see them trading Kristaps Porzingis at the moment. Lander22 says Kristaps Porzingis is good with Gafford. Yeah, he did play well with Dan Gafford for the limited times they did. I don't see them starting together, but I think they did play well together. They both blocked shots at a high clip. Daniel Gafford averaged 1.5 blocks per game. And Porzingis averaged 1.5 blocks per game with the Wizards, and I think they can be solid defensively. It depends on the matchup. If there's a quicker stretch four there, they can put, like, let's say Jaylen Brown plays the 4, Jason Tatum plays the 4. We don't want to have those two guys out there at the 4 and the 5 spot. But yeah, it's time the Wizards impose their will. You look at the Cavs; they have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and Lauri Markkanen, and they impose their will, and they have guys that are versatile bigs that can do more than just dunk and run and rim run. And Porzingis is a guy that can do more. And Gafford would be your shot blocker, a la Jared Allen. So it's time the Wizards try to impose their will on teams and just go big and just have a lot of Kyle Kuzma would be 6'10" at the 3 spot. KP Porzingis would be 7'3" at the 4 spot, and Gafford would be 6'10". It was just elite athleticism as a big at the center spot. Only thing, Gafford has to stay out of foul trouble, and of course he has to stay in shape as well. Next comment, take that, says Denny could play. Yeah, he could play small 4. I think he's better at the 4 spot, in my opinion. I think Kuzma is better at the 4 because he can blow by slower guys at the 4 spot and take advantage of that and stretch and take guys out off the dribble against 4s. And I say the same thing with Denny. I say the same thing with Rui. They can exploit that mismatch against slower 4s when they take him out there to the 3-point line off the dribble. Or Kuz, when he's knocking down that 3, he can just really put guys in it. He can really put guys in a tough spot defensively. When Kuz gets going, he had 8 threes. He was 8 for 11 against I want to say the Pacers or the Nets. He was 8 for 11 from the 3. So Biggie Steve says big W. Lander 22 says Bill point guard, Davis point guard maybe. Brandon Scott says, why are we trying to make Bill and Davis point guards? So they're making this move really to make Bradley Beal not play the point guard. So this helps take some pressure off Bradley Beal so he can go back to his natural 2-man spot, the shooting guard position and he does bring the ball up a lot. His usage rate has been pretty high the last couple of years. But this will give Bradley Beal and maybe the shooting numbers will go up since he doesn't have to worry about bringing the ball up. He can play off ball. I think the offense really is going to be run through Porzingis. You look at the last couple of games, after the trade deadline, the offense was ran through Kristaps Porzingis at that high post. Even when Trez was here, the offense was really ran through Trez at times where he would get the ball at the high post and he would look for the pass and the cutter. So they did that a lot. And I think they can do that better with Porzingis and Bradley Beal. And you see how, not comparing Porzingis to Jokic, but Monte Morris did a good job playing off Jokic. Will Barton did a good job cutting, moved without the basketball with Jokic. And I think Porzingis did a good job passing the ball. A lot of hockey assists Porzingis had in the last couple of games of the year. You look at the Lakers game, he dominated in that Lakers game as well, and he really controlled the offense at that high post. Lander 22 says, yes, we do need a backup point guard. 100%. We do. We need more point guards. Hero said, I would love to have Victor Oladipo as well on the mid-level exception. I don't think you have to use the full $10.5 million for Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo, I feel like he wants to go to a place where he can start. Monte Morris most likely felt that way too, and the Nuggets, they wanted to give him an opportunity to start as well. And they know Bones Island was coming back. But Victor Oladipo would be good. And defense is what we need to improve on. If you want to find guys that can defend, Victor Oladipo 100% is a guy that can defend. He has the athleticism, the 1-2, and the foot speed to defend. And I think Victor Oladipo would be perfect for that. Another guy from the DMV, from Maryland, went to high school in the Maryland area, went to high school in Maryland. So Will Barton from Baltimore, so you get some local guys in here too. That's always a nice story. Sam Davis said we need a starting point guard. Lander asked about DeJounte Murray. We're not getting DeJounte Murray. Sam Davis says no free agency or on. Think we will go for. I think Victor Oladipo is a guy that they should definitely target. I like Gary Harris, who played for the Orlando Magic. I think he's a wing that the 3-and-D guy that the Wizards should bring in. He played with the Nuggets as well. So there's some connection there with Wes Unseld Jr. So I would love to see them go after Gary Harris. Those are just some names I can see. Tomorrow I'll probably throw out some more free agents that they should target in free agency with the mid-level exception. So we'll see. I'll look up some list of guys that I have written down. I wrote some guys down. I just got to find my list. Well, that's bad, says KP and Gafford was the worst defensive combo in the NBA last year. They didn't play much. So, I mean, I'll look up the numbers on that. But I know the Timberwolves game that they played against each other, they barely played together for one. But when they did play against the Timberwolves, they played really well. And they were running the floor together really well as well. One more nerdy stat I found about Will Barton is too. Will Barton ranked 13th in the NBA in transition scoring last year. Monte Morris ranked 4th in the league, posting a 4.1 assist to turnover ratio in the half court. So good numbers right there. Good numbers right there. All right, last couple of comments. Leor says, "What do you think this trade means for Denny Avdia?" More competition. More competition. He's going to have to compete. He's going to have to compete with Will Barton for playing time. He's going to have to compete with Rui Hachimura for playing time. He's going to have to compete with Corey Kispert for playing time. It's just more competition. Kyle Kuzma as well is involved in that too. We got a logjam there, guys, still from last year. So Denny, he is training with Drew Hanlon. I know he's working on that shot. He's working on his ball handling. It's a big year for him. Now, defensively, if you want to start Denny for defense, I could definitely see that happening. I think he would be our best defender at the 3 spot. But like I said, offensively, he really has to improve. He's a really good passer. And I thought he started to get to the basket more last year after the trade deadline. GK says, Denver here, Monte Morris next to Bradley Beal and Kuzma is a great fit. I think so too. It's a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands to be successful. And I thought last year Dinwiddie needed the ball in his hands to be successful last year. Monte Morris is not the case with him. He can be really, really good without the basketball. And he's a guy that doesn't turn the ball over, which is what the Wizards need. Aviv Gaming, who do you think should start at the 3 spot? For me right now, it's really a toss-up. I don't see anybody really, neck and head, shoulders above anybody right now. But I think right now Will Barton would be the best fit to start at the 3 spot. If he comes off the bench as a scorer, I'm certainly fine with that. It could be Denny at the 3 for defense, but I need to see how he plays this year offensively. He has to make layups, and he has to use the left hand as well. The Wizards need spacing for Porzingis and Bradley Beal to operate. So that's my take on it. I think Will Barton, if I had to bet money on it, I got Will Barton start at the small 4 position. GK says, Monte does not turn the ball over and is a great guy as Will the Thrill is too. Yeah, they got good guys, character guys, which is what Tommy Shepard is looking for. And these guys, they don't need the ball in their hands to be successful. Diego Mihal says, I really like DeLon Wright for the backup point guard. Thoughts? DeLon Wright is fine. It depends on how much you're going to pay him. The mid-level exception most likely would be the way you acquire him. Maybe like $7.5 million, $9.5 million, $10.5 million. I wouldn't mind that. He brings length too. He brings length, and he can defend. He can shoot the 3 as well. He's been a solid back. I remember the playoffs. DeLon Wright for the Raptors. He was cooking the Wizards, and he's capable of coming off the bench and being a good scorer for the Wizards. So, or for any team. Elizabeth Hayden said, "Isn't KCP Bradley Beal's pal? Are you 100% Brad is going to sign?" They are good friends. They are good friends. That is true. So it was interesting because I know a lot of people said that they would not trade KCP because him and Bradley Beal are so close. They grew up together. They've been good friends for a long time. So that is intriguing that they actually did trade KCP on looking at it from that way. But I'm 95% sure that Bradley Beal was on. I think there's $248 million reasons why Bradley Beal would sign with the Washington Wizards. If he opts out, he will not be able to get it's a $60 million difference. If he signs with another team or if he opts into the deal, he won't be able to get that $248 million. He can only get that with the Washington Wizards, a 5-year, $248 million deal with the Washington Wizards. Ramal Pittman says Gafford with all these strong dunks, he needs to be playing aggressive defense. He does. He needs to play smartly though. He fouls. He's foul prone, and there's times where he is out of the game within the first 3 minutes of the game because he's fouling so much. So does he need to be more aggressive? Sure, but he just has to be smarter defensively. Play with your hands up, wall up, instead of having your hands over the defender. I know he goes for a lot of pump fakes too. Goes for a lot, and that's what gets him in trouble. Going for pump fakes, and he's getting called for a foul, and he's out within the first 4 to 3 minutes of his playing time. Take that says lots of young and old talent, but we can play better defense this year. Yeah, we were 26th in defensive rating last year. I was very disappointed by that because I know Wes Unseld Jr. is a defensive-minded coach. Well, he was the defensive coordinator for the Nuggets, and I was disappointed that we actually were worse. We actually regressed defensively. Under Scott Brooks, we were 20th in defensive rating, and then Wes Unseld Jr. We go to 26th in defensive rating. Matt says, you think Monte Morris will be the ideal point guard Tommy is looking for pass first point? Yeah, I think he fits everything that they asked for. Pass first point guard, can play defense. He's not the taller point guard that they're looking for, but you're not going to find a 6'6" point guard or 6'5" point guard all the time. So I have no problems with them getting a 6'3" point guard. It's just, he's taller than Ish and Neto for sure. A lot of guys are taller than Ish and Neto, but I think he fits what they're looking for. They didn't have to overpay for Malcolm Brogdon. You're not getting DeJounte Murray. You're not getting SGA. I don't see those guys being available unless you really knock off the Spurs with a big trade or with a big offer. So I think You didn't have to give up too many assets. You didn't give up one of the three young guys, one of the three young guns that I call them, Denny, Rui, Kispert. You didn't have to give up any of those. And Tommy Shepard's not done yet. You didn't have to give up Kuz. Who knows? Maybe they do make some more trades. Free agency is just starting. It hasn't even started yet, technically. Hasn't even started yet. The Plain Guy says, great content, man. Keep it up. Thank you. I thank you. Appreciate you for listening and subscribing. I really appreciate that, The Plain Guy. Last two questions here, and then I'll wrap it up. And we'll talk about this more tomorrow. Chuck Kendall says, he's a good point guard, but he's just a backup. I do agree with some of that, of what you say. I think naturally on a championship contending team, he's a backup point guard. I do agree with that. I do think he can be a good starter, though, for sure. But I do agree with the sentiment, your statement that on a championship contender, he is a backup point guard. I do agree with that. Bubba says, this is probably the last one. It's good that Tommy brings some familiar faces that West knows well. Monte and Will should be good veteran leaders and hoops presence in the locker room. Yes, the problem last year was the locker room. The KCP and Montrez altercation, the Denny and Davis altercation, the report that it was toxic in the locker room, that the prisoners were running the asylum. That's what Quentin Mayo reported, that a player texted him. So it was a lot of turmoil in the locker room, and I think they brought in locker room guys to make Wes Unseld Jr. comfortable, guys that he knows, that he's familiar with. And I think that's going to be big for Wes. I think that's going to be big for guys that are coachable. I'm not saying the guys last year were not coachable, but I think that definitely will help Wes be comfortable out there as a second-year coach. Bob Ho says, chat is Monte. Who is Monte Morris? I'm new to basketball. Yeah. I'll put a link to his highlights down below so you can check him out. But he's a guy that played for the Nuggets. He went to Iowa State, played in the G League his rookie season. Had a good year last year and was a key piece to the Nuggets making the playoffs without Jamal Murray, without Michael Porter Jr. And Monte Morris had to step up big for them. He did. He had to step up big for them, and I thought he played really well as a starting point guard for the Washington Wizards. Brandon Scott says, I think we should try to get OG Anunoby from the Raptors. They won a lot. They wanted the 7th pick from the Blazers. So I just don't see the Wizards doing that. I don't see the Wizards doing that. But he would help. He would be a great 3-and-D guy. He would be the answer for the small forward. So the void right now, the question marks are the 3 spot, the small forward spot, and really who's going to be that backup point guard. Those are still the question marks on the team. And how are they going to use Johnny Davis? Those are the questions right there. And what's going to happen with Kyle Kuzma? The targets I like is Victor Oladipo. I hope they bring him in. But I'm gonna bring in some tomorrow. I'm gonna bring up some more free agent targets for the mid-level exception, because that's all we're really gonna be able to use financially, free agent wise. I like Malik Monk as well. I like him a lot too. But I do want to thank you guys for listening and making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Now, for your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. And if you guys have any questions, you guys can always email me. I'll put my email down below in the comments section, and you can always DM me on Twitter. You can comment on YouTube, your take, or any questions that you guys have, or any suggestions, any free agent suggestions you guys have. My DMs are always open on Twitter, and I'm always looking at YouTube comments as well. Like I told you guys before, my son, his due date is July 4th. So if there's like days without episodes, there's a day where there's a gap in episodes, that's why. So I just want to give you guys a head up, so it's not like I'm just going dark on you guys. There's, my son is coming. So, but if there's a big trade or anything like that comes up, I'm going to do my best to get up a video. So Summer League's coming back. They did announce the Summer League roster. Summer League, I want to say the first day is July 9th. I'll talk about the dates of the Summer League as well. I'm very excited for the Summer League with Johnny, to see what Johnny Davis can do. But if you guys want to leave a grade for the trade as well, or DM me or anything you like, or add me on Twitter, you definitely can. Hail to the Wizards. Everybody have a good day. Peace.